Hello, my creeplings. I'm back. I'm revisiting one that I forgot I actually liked a lot. It's a newer horror, released in 2002, so it falls under what I call millennial horror. Things in the millennium were changing. If we go by what I would consider a decent timeline of trends, you had all your slashers in the 80s. Some of them were supernatural, some of them were not. The 90s, and they were gory as hell. Great effects, they were there to showcase the kills. In the 90s, things changed a little bit. We went for more atmospheric period pieces, less gore, so the slashers were dying out unless they were the big three. The big guys like Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers. And I think even Michael Myers had petered out to a point by the early 90s. So I know there was some backlash from parents groups and everything, and that's why horror kind of got toned down a little in the 90s. Well, then the millennium rolled around, and we had a kind of surge in the supernatural thriller genre of horror, and I would like to put this in that category of a supernatural horror. This one is basically a haunted house on a ship. Yes, folks, I am talking about the movie with one of the most iconic openings of a horror movie ever, Ghost Ship. This one, I remember watching it on premium cable. It was either HBO, Showtime, something like that. I really did like it. The cast list is a lot of big names. When I read this cast list, some of it's, I know one of them was a name before he was a name. And the other two had, one is basically fucking Hollywood amazement royalty. And the other one, she had either just gotten off of a very big hit TV show or was still doing a big hit TV show. I can't remember exactly in her timeline where this falls. So this is Ghost Ship from 2002, directed by Steve Beck, written by Mark Hanlon and John Pogue. Released October 25th, so this was definitely released for the Halloween season. That was another thing in the millennium. You got a lot of people at studios who understood horror. While it is a good year-round genre, that's when you're gonna make your money. Release that the week before Halloween or anytime in October. The closer you get to Halloween, the more money you're gonna make. At least that's how I see things. I know me, when I'm choosing what films to watch. I don't exclusively watch horror. I know, oh my god, the horror girl doesn't exclusively watch horror. I'd say about 70% of what I watch is horror, and it's not just because I do these. That was the way it was beforehand. But I do like me a good fantasy movie. I do like me a good period piece. I do like me, a good old cheesy sword and sandals. So, but I know during October, I am exclusively looking for the gory stuff, the creepy stuff, the supernatural stuff. I revisit that when I watch comfort TV shows. I watch their Halloween episodes specifically in October. So that's me. And I know there's a lot of people out there like me who do this. So I would imagine companies understand that, and they really understood it at the turn of the millennium. So, it made its money back. It was had a budget of $20 million, made $68.3 million. So it goes to show you how much money a horror movie can make with a decent story, really great effects, good cast, great cinematographer, etc., etc. But I'm going off on anything but the story and the cast list here. So let's get into this. So this story follows a marine salvage crew who work in the Bering Sea, which is north of Alaska, if I remember correctly, so very cold. they discover a mysterious ocean liner that had disappeared in 1962. And the cast is just, like I said, amazing. And I will go through the cast right now. Remember how I said we had, Hollywood, I don't want to say legend, but definitely Hollywood heavy hitter? We have Gabriel Byrne. Okay, so this has some real star power behind it just with him. He plays the captain, Sean Murphy. Now, Gabriel Byrne is one of those guys that he's not known for any one genre, but I have seen him in so many different things. Early on, he did Excalibur from John Boorman, where he played Uther. He did this great movie with Bridget Fonda called Point of No Return, which is a shot-for-shot American remake of the French La Femme Nikita. I know it's an American remake of La Femme Nikita. I just don't know if it's a shot-for-shot remake, but it's a great movie. I've seen him do so much. So seeing him in this was a huge treat. Juliana Margulies. So at the time, she had either just gotten off of being on the hit NBC series ER for many, many seasons, or she was still in the middle of doing it. She has since gone on to keep working. Some other things that stand out in my mind that she's done, TNT, the cable channel, did a mini-series based on the Marion Zimmer Bradley, I believe is the author, book called Mists of Avalon. She was the lead in that. I've seen her in a lot of different movies and a lot of different TV shows, and she never disappoints. Got a guy named Ron Eldar as Dodge, a guy named Desmond Harrington as Jack, Isaiah Washington as Greer, Alex Dimitriades, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, as Santos. We have a Carl Urban pre-Lord of the Rings, post-Xena Hercules as Munder. An actress named Emily Browning is Katie Harwood. And those are the big characters that we need to focus on. So, this movie opens in a flashback in 1962 aboard the Italian ocean liner, the MS Antonio Grazia. I am probably just going to refer to it as the Grazia from now on, simply because I keep wanting to say Antonio, and I know that you sailors out there will get really mad at me, because even if they have a male name, ships are hers, are girls. Ships are feminine to every sailor I have ever talked to, regardless of the name of the vessel. And I do not want to misgender an inanimate object due to tradition. So, I will probably just refer to it as the Grazia from now on. So we see, and this is pure vintage fashion porn, by the way. That early 60s when the 50s was starting to become sleeker, and yeah, the vintage fashion fiend in me was like, I want that outfit, I want that outfit. I think I own a necklace that looks like that. That was me, okay? That was totes me. So you're kind of walking through the ship, getting an idea of what's going on. We meet a little girl named Katie who's there by herself, bored out of her gourd. Everyone's having dinner. There's a concert by a lounge singer named Francesca. Everyone's either having dinner or dancing. So the ship's captain asks Katie to dance, kind of doing this nice thing. We find out later she was traveling alone. So the captain's doing the captain-y thing and making sure that one of his young passengers is taken care of. He's trying to make sure that she is at least semi-enjoying herself. She's got this little, string of blocks where you can, spell things, and she spelled out, "I'm so bored." And one of the crew that was checking up on her just kind of smiled and patted her on the head. I mean, I'm assuming the character's about 10, especially back in the 60s, when you're 10 and you're by yourself and you're surrounded by a bunch of adults, that poor kid was bored out of her fucking mind. So the ship's captain takes her to dance. They're out there listening to Francesca sing and all this stuff. Well, you see this hand, you don't see who the hand belongs to, flips a lever, and this cable just, and this is what I mean by this is one of the coolest openings in horror I have ever seen. This cable just snaps and goes across the deck, cutting everybody but Katie in half. She was saved because she was short. But, like, the look of horror on the adult passengers' faces as they start dying and sliding apart. This goes to show you what a stand-up guy the captain was. He had actually bent over to save Katie. So he wasn't split in the torso. He was split on top. So, good on you, Captain. The effect is really cool. It's not overdone. It is definitely a CGI effect, but it is done well. That you can suspend disbelief and think, this actually happened. I know I rag on CGI a lot, and I know that, especially at this time frame, some of the CGI wasn't as clean as it could be. This actually was very clean and very iconic. If you talk to anybody who's ever watched this film and liked it, even a little bit, they will tell you that as one of the most standout parts of it is this opening. And we kind of get to revisit it a little bit later, too, in the film. So this was like you can't really top this, but the story does continue on from there. We now go 40 years later into the modern day, a salvage crew. So you got Murphy, you've got Maureen Epps, Juliana Margulies' character. I think I forgot to mention that when I was going on about how great she is. Dodge, Greer, Santos, and Munder. They're the crew. They're approached by a guy named Jack Ferryman. He says he's a weather service pilot, and he spotted a ship adrift in the Bering Sea, in the Strait. Now, I don't understand maritime law, so I'm going to be quoting from my memory what they're saying. But apparently, according to maritime law, if they can go claim it, if they can salvage it, which is exactly what they're going to do. Their tug is called the Arctic Warrior, and they set out on that with Jack because he's like, I am not just going to sit here and wait for you to bring me a 10% finder's fee. I'm going. Which, I mean, on the one hand is a smart move if you're anybody but this kind of character, and you'll find out why later. You want to protect your investment, which is exactly how he explains it. Now, when they don't realize what the ship is until they go aboard. And this is where Captain Murphy, he spouts off all the exposition about how it had just disappeared, no survivors were found, and it hasn't been seen for 40 years. This is, one of like those, his area of expertise type, almost like a neurospicy hyperfocus, it sounds like to a point. We all know it's exposition dump as film goers, but it definitely kind of feels like neurospicy hyperfixation. So they're looking around, they're looking at the damage. She's slowly sinking because she's got a pretty good gash in her side. Due to where she's been circling, due to currents, she's been banging on these islands occasionally, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And before you ask, the islands are not inhabited by anything other than a bunch of seals. That's that far north. They start exploring. Maureen, they always refer to her by her last name, Epps. I'm probably going to go back and forth on that. Maureen, when she's looking around, finds something very interesting in the now drained swimming pool. Bullet holes and bullet casings. And she's kind of concerned. She goes to climb out, and when she hits the top of the ladder, she sees a little girl. Well, it's Katie. But Katie should be dead, right? 40 years ago? So, okay. She thinks she's just seeing shit and going crazy. And, so the rest of the crews looked around. They end up finding 28, or no, excuse me. 9 wooden boxes, each with 28 gold bars. So that ship was carrying a fucking fortune. So of course, they're gonna fix the ship, pull her in, and claim everything on it, including those gold bars. So they're all excited. They're all getting a little on the greedy side. Put a pin in that. So there's a series of shit that goes on. I didn't make a list of all of them, but like I said, Katie constantly popping up for Maureen, and the radio's giving out and playing that song that Francesca was singing. I believe it's Senza Fine. Please forgive me for my Italian pronunciations and accents. Italian is not my strong suit. If I work at it, I can pronounce things correctly, but I do not speak the language. So I'm sorry to any native Italians out there if I'm doing it wrong. I'm trying my best. And anytime I have to pronounce a name from a foreign language that I'm not very familiar with, please forgive me. I'm trying my best. I'm saying that from now going forward. So after all this shit keeps happening, they all get together and they decide, no, we're just going to grab the gold and we're going to go. The ship is sinking. It's going to take us too long to fix it before it crashes back into these islands again. It's time to go, cut our losses and go. But the tugboat gets sabotaged by something unknown, and that fucker blows because it gave it a gas leak. So gas leak explodes. We lose Santos. I think Santos was the main pilot. The guy who drove it. Again, my nautical terms, I apologize. You'd think someone who likes shows like Sequest DSV and all that shit would know her nautical terms. I do not. So he's not the captain, but he drives the boat. So pilot, I think is the term. Again, if you know, you gently correct me down there. I'm always more than willing to learn. Hopefully I'll learn soon enough. So now they're forced to repair the Grazia and pull her to port. That's their driver to port. That's their only option. And like the rudder's frozen, there's no gas, there's nothing. So they've still got this slow leak. So they've got their work ahead of them, and they got about 3 days to do it in before they knock back into these islands and it's done and over with. So let's see. Greer, who, by the way, didn't really want to go on this because he's supposed to get married in 2 weeks, I think. He's got a fiance, and they were supposed to get married like right after he got back from whatever their last one was. But he decided to go ahead and do this last job before getting married. Poor man. He's getting drunk on the unopened bottles of champagne because, let's face it, alcohol when it's been unopened can sit for decades. Forever. So this shit's probably really, really good by now. He's sitting there getting drunk off his ass, apologizing to the photo of his fiance. And the ghost of Francesca. Now, this chick is supposed to be a bombshell. I personally didn't start drooling over her. I could see where other people would find her attractive. Very nice body. Very epitome of 1960s Italian beauty queen type look. Her ghost seduces Greer. And Greer is so drunk, he goes, I can't cheat on my fiance with the ghost, so I'm just gonna go with it here. Like, he knows something fucked up is happening, but he is so drunk and so upset, he doesn't fucking care at this point. Well, he ends up, she tricks him into falling down an elevator shaft, and he's now... So that's 2 members of the crew down. Sean, Captain Murphy, enters the captain's cabin and encounters the ghost of the captain, who explains to him what happened in the days leading up to the disappearance. They found a ship, sinking. Okay, let me look at this. The crew of the Grazia also recovered gold from a sinking cruise ship called the Lorelei, along with its sole survivor. Sean recognizes the picture of the sole survivor. Now, he rushes to go tell the others, but he starts hallucinating that Maureen is a dead Santos attacking him. So, of course, she manages to knock him out. Now, here's the thing about Maureen. Maureen is a very capable woman physically. She's not this damsel in distress type. She is a ship salvager. And they really show this to the actress's advantage. They really sell this. And this is what I mean when I like strong female leads. She's smart. She's physically capable, but she's not so overdone that you find it hard to believe. I believe she can beat up Murphy when Murphy's possibly drunk. That's what they think. They think he's drunk and seeing shit. So I can believe she can take care of herself because she salvages ships. She's hung around with men like this all of her life. So, yes. She's not the damsel in distress type, which I love. She is a strong, capable, smart woman. But even she's a little bit on edge because all this shit that's happening. She keeps seeing Katie, all these things. The others, come up as she just knocks him out. I don't want to say dispatches because it makes it sound like she killed him. She did not. She knocks his ass out. They think he's gone mad, so they lock him in this drained fish tank. Now, this is a luxury ocean liner. I believe the line was from Captain Murphy at the beginning. The Italians could not compete with other companies on speed, so they built these floating art palaces, so that there's a high luxury experience. So this fish tank is not just, cute little wall to wall. It is a very tall, very wide column going from almost to the ceiling to the floor. Honestly, I would love to see what a ship like this looked like in its heyday. It had to have been like, mwah, chef's kiss on the elegance. So they put him in the fish tank and they go about their business. Well, Maureen's searching around and she finds Katie's room. And she finds Katie's body had been hung in the closet. And again, the effects guys, the mummified corpse of a 10-year-old, that was freaky. But at this point, Katie's ghost is actually starting to talk to Maureen and lets her know what happened. So I don't miss anything. I'm going to read the bit I have written in or have down in my notes here. So Maureen meets the ghost of Katie, who reveals what happened on the Grazia. The sole survivor of the Lorelei convinced the Grazia crew members to murder their passengers, as well as the captain and officers. So most of the passengers were murdered by industrial strength rat poison in the food. Then there was the opening, which we get to revisit, and they rounded the rest up and shot them in the swimming pool, or the crew was running after them and slitting their throats with cutthroat razors. It's pandemonium and it's gruesome, and as a horror movie fan, it definitely kept me on the edge of my seat going, oh my god, what kind of carnage are we going to get from this? Unfortunately, the crew member who was so nice to Katie is also one of them who captured her and strung her up. That's sad. But going back to the notes, after murdering the passengers, they all turned on each other, and Francesca killed the officer that survived. But then she was killed by the lone survivor of the Lorelei. It's a really cool hook catching her, stringing her up. So think back to how I said Intruder with Randy on the meat hook. Same idea, but a huge ship's cargo hold hook. And he just leaves her swinging there. So he also then brands her palm supernaturally with a hook-shaped symbol by grabbing her hand. This person is revealed to be the idiot who got them involved in this in the first place, Jack. So Jack is not what he says he is. He is definitely more to this story than just being a weather pilot. So Maureen deduces that Jack lured them there just to fix the boat and keep it going, but for what reason, they're not sure yet. So she decides to sink it to thwart the plan. She's just like, that's it, it's done. Nope, we're gonna sink this fucking ship if it kills us all. At this point, we still have Dodge and Munder alive. They find Murphy drowned in the fish tank. It had been devoid of water. Somehow it filled up. So we have Maureen, Dodge, I believe, and Munder are still alive. For now. They were starting to drain the water. Well, one of the drainage lines gets blocked, so Munder goes to scuba dive. Almost stuttered on that word. To go see what the blockage is, and he ends up getting munched, grounded to death by the ship's gears. So, bye, Carl. Oh, it's always hard to watch a guy that you think is really cute die. It's not particularly gruesome, although the gear does spit out munched up, ground up hand from here out. So you get a little practical effect in there to show you that, yes, he is dead. So Maureen comes back and she's like, find out where when Munder gets back, you, Dodge, and Jack, because Jack has shown back up, stay here while I finish doing what I'm doing, and then, she goes to set explosives. Jack starts taunting Dodge about being a cowardly child for not acting on his feelings for Maureen, because apparently he's been in love with her forever. I never got that. Maybe I'm a bit oblivious, but I didn't get that from the portrayal here from Dodge to Maureen. But I mean, hey, teach your own, right? So Jack taunts Dodge. Dodge shoots Jack, and we think that's the end of it. Until Dodge shows up to Maureen while she's setting the explosives, or she just finished. He claims he killed Jack and that they can salvage the gold to start a life together, but Maureen wants to know why he hasn't asked where Munder is. Like I said, smart cookie. Dodge then morphs into Jack, who's already killed Dodge. Jack's been using the Grazia as a trap to collect souls. He's, as he put it, a salvager himself. He is the demonic spirit of a deceased sinner who has been tasked with provoking people into sin before killing them, and then he brings their souls. So he's collecting their souls, trying to fill a quota. So the guy's kind of a I don't want to say pencil pusher, but you know what I'm getting at. So as long as the ship's kept afloat, the souls of everyone who died aboard, so from 1962 to now, because it looks like, you'll notice little hints, like early on they find a digital watch. 1962 digital watches were not a thing. So they find, like, there had been other salvage crews there before. So, of course, this just is Jack collecting souls to fill his quota. So yeah, as long as the Grazza is kept afloat, the souls of everyone who died aboard the ship will be dragged down when Jack returns to hell. Now, Maureen, of course, fights him, and there's a really cool half underwater, it's a really wet fight scene, and she takes them out. Really cool shot with a harpoon gun to the explosives detonator handle. Jack is blown to pieces, so we think. And as the ship blows up, you can see all the souls ascending, and Katie's one of them. Now, Katie helps Maureen get out from under the ship, out of the ship, out from underwater. Maureen climbs onto some floating luggage, and the poor girl, she just floats there forever. Now, Maureen's later found by another cruise ship, and she's returned to land. Now, as she's put into an ambulance, because this poor girl's been exposed to the elements for God knows how long, she sees the boxes of gold being loaded onto the cruise ship, overseen by a resurrected Jack who glares at her. Now, we get her panicking and screaming, and the ambulance doors close, and that's it. It's done. The movie's over. So the cycle hasn't stopped yet. I doubt we'll ever see a sequel to this, but it'd be interesting to see what Jack decides to do with it now. Now that he's got to start all over again. So this movie was shot in Australia and Canada. Principal photography began on location in Queensland, so that they could build a ship. So that they could establish it. There's a lot of effects stuff that went into this, and you can tell that the hard work paid off. It is a very, very beautifully shot film, especially with all the water. The effects of the souls ascending to heaven through the water. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. The soundtrack it's got a lot of screamo metal in it, which is a choice, but that was also very popular at the time. So again, trying to bring the younger viewers in, give it a banging soundtrack. But the atmospheric soundtrack, it's okay. It's yeah. So yes, this had a really nicely reviewed, and honestly, it's a really good popcorn movie, early millennial horror with some big names that do some great performances. It's definitely like Event Horizon I described as a haunted house in space. This is a haunted house on a ship. So if you like that like heavily supernatural slant without too many gory deaths, but you still want something that's going to keep you engaged, this is very good at doing that. This is one of the higher budget, slicker horror movies that were really popular at the time, which is not normally my thing. I mean, y'all know I'm an 80s DIY, Evil Dead, early Friday the 13th, low budget horror girly. That's my bread and butter. That's where I cut my teeth, and that's where I always go back to for comfort. But this was really, really good. This is something that definitely I could show an earlier like stage horror fan to get them deeper into the genre. Younger viewers note there are boobs in this for the one seduction scene. Parents, if you're okay with that, I would definitely be okay showing this to a 12 or 13-year-old. But again, that's me. I tend to think kids don't need to be as sheltered as we want to sometimes when it comes to things like movies, because every woman has boobs. Whether you see them on screen or accidentally in the bathroom when you open the door on your mother or your sister, every woman has boobs. Let's just get over the taboo of, oh my God, her boobs are showing. They're boobs. They're there. You know? But going back to this has got, again, that opening. And then watch later when Katie's given Maureen the vision of what had happened, watching the ship go from being this derelict, rotting out husk of its former self, backtracking into the height of elegance. And then watching all the carnage afterwards. Those were some great shots. They put their time into that. They put their effort into that. And oh my God, it shows. It's like, I will admit that the song put over the flashback scene is a little weird because, again, it's I think it falls under the genre of nu metal, and you almost kind of expected to hear something period piece, like 1960 period piece, but it works because it really plays up that chaotic danger that just, I'm just going to say it again, the chaoticness of it, the unrelenting pace of it. It's again, it's the highlight of the film, is anything having to do with what happened at the beginning of this. Go watch this one if you haven't yet. This is what I'm going to call, this is a lost treasure of the early millennium. I know that a lot of great horror coming out now. People looking at the 80s and reliving a lot of that horror. There's that point in the 90s where things were, and the early millennial, where things got lost a little bit. This is one of those that I would go back and revisit. This, see what else came out in the early 2000s. Stuff that we've done, and we have Ginger Snaps was another one that was an early millennial horror that actually definitely should be revisited if you have, or visited if you haven't seen it before. The remakes of both The Haunting and The House on Haunted Hill, which we will eventually do. That's what kept me going through the horror genre during what I felt was a dry time. Things like this and those movies. So there are some gems to go back and look at. If you like all the Japanese remakes, that's when The Ring and The Grudge came out, which I really should rewatch those again, too. So 2002's Ghost Ship, starring Gabriel Byrne, Juliana Margulies, Carl Urban, and a bunch of other people, is a very, very good supernatural thriller horror film that I highly, highly suggest everybody watch. If anything, just for that opening and just for the where shit went down flashback scene. But on that note, I'm going to go do some stuff here to figure out what comes next for the channel. I'm hoping that, I can find some great stuff to talk about. And again, I take suggestions. I take constructive criticism. All that down and below in the comments. But yeah, I'm having too much fun doing this. I forgot about this movie, and I'm ashamed I forgot about this movie. So I'm going to go do what I do. And in the meantime, a good night, my creeplings. And I'll see you next time. Bye.